Hi everyone, it's Shar. Welcome back to my channel. Welcome to a wrap up. I know I skipped September's wrap up and you will hear why in exactly 1 minute, but I'm going to talk to you about the books that I read throughout September and October, which overall were pretty great reading months for me. But first, some stats. I will have this video time-stamped, so if you're not interested in stats, you can just skip ahead to the actual reviews of the books that I read. So in 2024, my reading has slowed down quite a bit, especially in this later half of the year as I completely changed my life. But throughout the months of September and October, I read 8 books. And it was a really great reading month. So my overall rating is a 4.28, which I think is perhaps the highest I've ever had. September is definitely doing some heavy lifting there because my average rating was a 4.83. That is definitely the highest rating I've ever had. September was absolutely killing it with all of the fantastic reads. And then October, I had a 3.875. Now, of the 8 books that I read over the past 2 months, I have read 3 horror books, 1 mystery, 3 romances, and 1 self-help book. So I read just as many horrors as I did romances, which 2024 has been my year of romance. So I'm excited that I introduced some horror and mystery in there. And in September, I read 3 books, and in October, I read 5 books. The format is 5 audiobooks and 3 ebooks, and of all of the books that I read, only 1 book was from Kindle Unlimited. Everything else was from the library. Now let's get into some reviews. So September was a really fantastic reading month, and it started with this beauty right here, Ready or Not by Cara Bestone. Now this is an accidental pregnancy story. So we're following our heroine who ends up having the one-night stand with this bartender. They have a very great time, except oopsie, she's pregnant, and this is not their romance because he is in a very complicated situation, and she ends up actually getting a lot of help and support from her best friend's brother, and this is their romance. First of all, the audiobook for this is so damn good and introduced me to one of my new favorite audiobook narrators. She does appear again later on in this video, completely by accident, but I just absolutely love the story between Beau and I forgot her name. I know his name is Beau, maybe, maybe. I love their romance so much, and I love the conversations that were being had here around pregnancy and the father of the baby and his involvement in her life, but also his situation. I did read this in a reading vlog, so if you want to hear my full thoughts, you can check that reading vlog out because there is certainly lots of ranting that happens in there, but I love this book so much, and I'm giving it 5 stars, which if you know me, you know the pregnancy trope I'm fairly neutral about. It only ever bothers me if one of the characters has explicitly stated that they do not want kids, yet their HEA includes a child. No, I don't like that. But outside of that, I'm pretty neutral about it. But I did really love this book. And I know a lot of people who hate the pregnancy trope who love this book as well. So I highly recommend it. And then I read Everyone on This Train is a Suspect, which was a 4.5 star read. You can see what a great reading month this was. So this is by Benjamin Stevenson. This one we're with Ernest Cunningham once again. This is the direct sequel to Everyone in My Family Has Killed Someone. Everyone on This Train is a Suspect follows Ernest, and he is now on a train for like horror writers or people in the crime genre, just anyone who writes scary books. He gets invited to a conference there on this train that goes through Australia, and of course while they're on the train somebody dies and they're trying to solve it. It is very much a classic murder mystery, and while I did not really care about the murder itself, some of the twists and turns did absolutely get me, and I just liked hearing from Ernest. He was silly goofy, and the writing style of breaking the fourth wall and like Ernest talking to you directly as the reader, it's just fun. It's just fun. I liked hearing about Ernest and his silly goofy times, which it does feel strange to call a book about a murder mystery silly goofy, but Ernest's tone is very humorous. So if you've read the book or you've read Everyone in My Family Has Killed Someone, you get the sense of what I mean. The author balancing the humor with the more serious matter of someone has died. And then I read Bury Your Gaze by Chuck Tingle. Now, I read this very much influenced by Gabby from Gabby Reads, because she was on the Patreon and she was just talking about how much she loved the book. And I was like, you know what, besties? Yes, I will read this book. I will. And I am so glad I did. Bury Your Gaze follows... Are you new here? Because I don't remember anyone's name. Names just whoop, fly out of my head. No, we have our protagonist, and he is a screenwriter, and he is writing this show that's very popular. It's getting its series finale, and he wants to end it with a queer couple getting together. Except the producers of the show are like, you have two options here. You can have them get together, and then one of them will die, or you can have her end up with... a man. And he's like, I'm not burying my gaze. Like, I'm not fucking doing that. You can fight me on this. Like, that's not gonna happen. Like, I'm not gonna do that. We deserve happy endings. And no, like, it's just not gonna happen. That doesn't make any sense. I want the story to end the way that I wrote it to end. And some weird shit goes down. Let's just say people aren't happy about this. He ends up encountering a bunch of just very strange things. But just know that his life is in danger now for very bizarre reasons. But I just loved this. This was such a love letter to like classic horror movies. I say as someone who's like never seen a fucking movie seemingly in her life, because I've seen almost nothing. But it was just so good. Talk about the lack of representation of queer people in Hollywood and why the only queer stories that are shown are tragedies, and talking more about happy queer stories. I just loved it. And there was also an aromantic and asexual character in here, and she is so good. And there's just this line where she talks about, and how many stories in Hollywood exist about ace and aro characters? None. And I'm just like, listen, if you read the book, you know why that line gagged me and exactly when that happened. Obsessed, obsessed. The scenes are gory, they're violent, there definitely are some very scary scenes in here, but Chuck Tingle just pulls his story together so well. It is definitely going to be one of my favorite books of the year. And if you know, you know. The scene in the forest, that scene is burned into my memory. And that concluded September. So let's talk about October. So October started off also really well, because I started with A Soul to Guide by Opal Rain. I'm continuing with the Duskwalker Bride series, and this is book 4 following Raywin, and I forgot his name. But in case you're new here, Duskwalkers are these beings that live on Earth at a time, kind of like an alternate dimension, where a rip in the veil was opened and demons came out and essentially terrorized and hunted humans. And it halted all progress, and that was during the time of like the Industrial Revolution. So humanity just never expanded, and humans live in like these kind of pockets of society, protecting themselves against the demons who will eat them. Like, that is what's going on. And we have Raywin, who's actually a fae, and we have, I want to say Maverick, but I don't think that's it. Anyway, we have him, and he is disguised as a human. He has like magic that can do that, and Raywin runs into him because he's going on a quest, and she's like, great, get me the fuck out of this town. I've got to find magic powers so I can get back to my home world in the Fae realm. Too bad she don't know what this man is, because he's like, I think the fuck not. Sure, we'll find this, but I'm going with you, because you know what? I also don't want to stay on this dusty, crusty world. And you know what, bestie? Same. That's what he wants. But anyway, he and Raywin do end up getting together. It's Opal Rain. It's a Duskwalker Bride series. It's a combination of like very high fantasy and world building and lots of sexy times. They spend a lot of time fucking. Lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of fucking. And you know what? That's just what I wanted, and I loved it. But I'm giving it 4 stars because, as you can hear from my review, it's not really memorable. What happened outside of them fucking? Magic, world development, setting up more of the story for the final chapters of this series. So yeah, love that. It was a 4-star read for me. I read Mastery by Robert Greene because I had to. It was part of a school assignment. I gave it 2 stars. I think the man was talking out of his ass, and really what this really came down to was follow your passion. great, but I'm not counting that in my ratings. But my other love is Love and Other Conspiracy Theories by Mallory, what's her last name? Marlowe. Now, this is a story of a woman. Man, I don't remember anyone's name. I'm lucky I remember the plot. But anyway, this woman works at what is essentially BuzzFeed, and she is about to get thrown out the door, or so she thinks, because her work has slowed to like almost being redundant in her role. She doesn't really do anything, and she needs to produce a series. And her boss says, listen, I want you to produce a series. I think that you're really talented and I want you to show yourself via this project. So go find something to film and let's get it done. Again, it's kind of like BuzzFeed. So she's tasked with starting a new show, and she ends up watching some late night television about Bigfoot, and she sees this man who's incredibly handsome, very charismatic, and talking about conspiracy theories. And she's a skeptic, but she finds herself watching that entire episode. And she realizes that she has some serious talent on her hands, and she wants to create a web version of his podcast where he talks about all of his favorite conspiracy theories. They end up meeting up and he agrees to be on the show, except that on camera he actually has no ability to do that at all. He's really bad in front of the screen, and she jumps in to kind of like banter with him to relax, but her boss comes in at that moment and they realize they have a really good formula of the believer and the skeptic, and they go off and film their shows. I called this BuzzFeed Unsolved fanfiction, which sounds harsh because that's not what it is, but it very much reminds me of that, okay? They're going to places like the Winchester Mystery House, the Roosevelt Hotel, they're hunting Bigfoot and the Mothman, and they're going to the Queen Mary ship. And honestly, if you're someone like me who loves that kind of shit, like ghost hunting, the author very much is writing to you. And of course, this is their love story, so they fall in love throughout that, and it has much deeper conversations being had here. And I want to warn you that our heroine did leave a relationship with a man who was extremely narcissistic and was very emotionally abusive. So I just want you to be mindful of that. And our hero is also dealing with the loss of a parent. So if those are triggering subjects for you, then this may not be the book for you. But I did really love this story. It made me giggle so much. And again, as someone who loves those kind of videos, I just was having a good time. And I will say, and I will repeat myself here, our heroine doesn't believe in aliens. And I'm just like, how could you not believe in aliens? I'm not saying little green men are coming to the planet right now. I'm not even saying they exist anywhere near our galaxy. I'm like, do you know how fucking big the universe is? Do you know how many other galaxies exist? Do you know the places that humans can't even reach because it's too far away? You are literally the size of less than a speck of dust. But you think you're the only life form? I can't, but let it be known, yes, I do fucking believe in aliens. Do I think we'll ever encounter aliens? No. Do I think we have encountered aliens? No. But do I think aliens are likely? Yeah, just because the universe is too fucking vast. It is likely that there are other life forms that exist in places we just have not gotten to. This time is also fucking weird. And let me give you an example of this. If you were a certain amount of light years away from Earth and you looked at Earth right now, in this present moment where I'm talking to you, do you know what you would see? Dinosaurs. Dinosaurs. And if you don't believe in aliens, don't tell me. I don't want to know. And then I most recently read The Har by David Sodergren. That sounds right to me. I gave this book 3 stars. This is a story of a woman named Muriel. Muriel is 86 years old. She lives in Scotland, and she lives in this really, really beautiful small seaside village. It was a fisherman's village, and there is this massive American corporation led by this man named Peter Grant, I think, and he's just destroying the shit out of this land. He is trying to force all of the residents out so that he can develop, never mind the fact that the land itself is protected and it is illegal to do that. He doesn't care because he has enough money to buy out everyone around him. And my criticism of this book is that everyone in this book is horrible. All of them. Horrific. Like, I'm talking caricatures of villains. No complexity at all. Their only trait is evil, disgusting. That's it. But that works in the author's favor, I guess, because the whole idea is that they're doing this, except fuck around and find out because something doesn't like that. And they get their just desserts. And you're supposed to root for that because, again, one-dimensional characters with no depth or complexity. Their only trait is nasty, disgusting human beings. My hot take here, this is a monster romance. I know it's marketed as a horror, but this is a monster romance, and you cannot convince me otherwise. But 3 stars to this book. And finally, we have Dead Silence by S.A. Barnes. Yes, this is a book that I've DNF'd before, and that is only because I was confused about the premise, because this book is about a ghost ship and the crew who go out and investigate this ghost ship. Now, in real life, ghost ships are real. I'm not talking like the Flying Dutchman ghost ship. I mean ships that people find that are completely abandoned in the middle of the ocean. That is a real phenomenon that does happen. So I automatically heard ship and thought ocean. I love water horror. No, it's cosmic horror. It is a space ship following the Aurora, which was the first luxury cruise liner to do intergalactic travel, except shit went really, really, really wrong, horrifically wrong. And then we have our present day crew, or it's the future in the book, but present day in the story. They find the Aurora. No one else has ever found it. They go on and shit also goes wrong very, very quickly because they're seeing visions of dead people. This story was so gruesome and so graphic, and I loved it. All of my favorite things, ghosts, haunting, a little bit of romance in there as well, but it was just such a fun time. Once I got over the whole element of the story that wasn't working for me, which was the interrogation that she was going through, I was like, I don't care. Get me back on the boat. Actually, I just want to be on the Aurora. And I gave this book 4 to 4.25 stars. It was generally such a good time, and I'm really glad that I went back and gave this book a 3rd chance because it worked so well for me. And what I would say is I highly recommend the audiobook for this story, but this story is very violent, but much like the horror. People getting what's coming to them, but not the people on the boat. Those ghosts are innocent. So that does bring us to the end of this video. As always, thank you so much for watching, besties. Please let me know what your favorite book of September was and your favorite book of October. If you haven't already seen my end of year TBR, I will leave that linked because that's going to influence the vlogs that I will be posting throughout this month of November. I hope you have the happiest of Novembers, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!